Hello, welcome to Natural Aspirations. My name is Adam and this is my 2004 Vauxhall Astra Bertone. So I've had this car about a year, done sort of roughly 30,000 miles in this car, and for the most part it's been pretty flawless. Had a few little leaks here and there. Right now it's leaking some oil from the rocker cover, but we'll have a look at that later. So for the time being we'll just have a bit of a look around the car, show you a few bits. So yeah, we'll avoid looking at that. Their estate. But the rest of the car overall is pretty clean. We've got a little dent here. There's a bit of an area on the roof where it's been over polished, and she's filthy. But we'll give her a clean, probably in a video soon, something like that. But overall, I'm really happy with this car. I got it for just £1,100, and it's been great. So this is actually the baby one. So this one is only the 1.8 engine, which makes approximately 125 horsepower, roughly 170 newton meters. You could also get these with a 2.2, roughly at about 150 brake, and then there was also the 2 litre turbo, which is kind of the one to have. They're around 190 brake, but being forced induction, you can take it way further than something like this. So far, I've done a couple of little bits to this car. So we've done a nice induction kit, nice hot air intake. Not really ideal for performance, but you know, it sounds pretty good. I've also gone with 308mm brakes from the turbo model, and these are drilled and grooved. Just gives a little bit more bite than the standard brakes that this car comes with. And then finally, I've also got myself some red leather seats. These are from an early car, so they're a little bit nicer than what this car had originally, and I'm eventually planning to do the door cards in the same car as the seats. So, talking spec, this car's actually spec'd quite nicely, being an ex-demo from Vauxhall. So this car's adorned with the optional Irmscher spoiler, which about a 50-50 split. Some cars have it, some cars don't. In my opinion, it looks wrong without it. It's also got SE2 alloys, despite not being an SE2. It's also got automatic climate control, which was kind of a requirement when I bought this car, because the centre console just looks so much better than with the standard. I just prefer it way more. I've also fitted a nice Blaupunkt's Bremen stereo in there, just because it looks period correct, and it's great. We've also got heated leather seats, which was an optional extra. Originally, as I've said, they were black, but the heated is standard. So the car's also equipped with solar reflective windscreen, which came with the active climate control. And I believe that's everything this car's got. Now, there are a few other options this car could have. It could have sunroof, which I really wish it had, but finding a sunroof car is near on impossible in 2025. And the other thing which I also wish it had was the trip computer, which this car is missing. And we're hoping to maybe install that in a later video. This car could also be equipped with Xenon headlights, which, as you can see, this car doesn't have. We'll maybe add those in a later video too. And there were various Irmscher styling parts that were available for this vehicle too, which we may also add later on. Anyway, enough waffle about what this car does and doesn't have. Let's take it for a drive. So, why did I choose a Vauxhall Astra Bertone? Now, up until about a year ago, I owned a 1.4 Astra G Enjoy, and that wasn't a car I really planned to own. I just needed a cheap car about 3 years ago, and I got it for, I think it was about £500, and I actually put nearly 70,000 miles on that car, near enough trouble free. I mean, it had regular services and all of that, but aside from that, all it needed was a clutch. It was a perfect little car. And well, yeah, when it come to me wanting an upgrade, I thought, well, what better car to have than the coupe? The things I like about it, you know, for a naturally aspirated inline four, it's got very, very good mid-range. I'm actually very impressed with the mid-range of this engine. It picks up quite well. You know, it's anything from around 3,000 RPM onwards. It just really goes, and we'll be taking a look at that once we get to some better roads. And yeah, the other thing I love about this car is the handling. It actually handles really, really nicely, and when comparing it to my 5-door 1.4 I had before, granted this does have stiffer suspension than that car did, you really do feel that extra weight over the rear, and the car just feels so much more planted as a result. The weight just makes a huge difference, and I love the way this car handles. I'm actually quite looking forward to getting some nice coilovers on this eventually, and pushing that even further. So this car is actually equipped with a hydro-electric steering rack, so it's almost a cross between your traditional hydraulic steering and electric power steering. Now, it does really give the benefit. You do get that feel of the classic hydraulic steering, but you do notice the electrical input in the way that it sort of manages itself. Overall, I really do like the feel of the steering. You know, on turning, you really do get a positive feel from the front wheels as you get on the throttle. The only thing is, I imagine with more power you would lose that. This car is a later model, so very early ones are equipped with the Euro 3 engine, and this has a Euro 4 engine. So the main difference really is in engine management and also the throttle. So the early engines, they have a cable throttle, while these are all drive-by-wire. A little bit about these cars while I'm sat in traffic. So the Astra Coupe came out in 1999, about a year after the Mark IV Astra released, and it was almost pitched as a bit of a replacement for the Calibra. Now, Opel had designed a concept for a Mark II Calibra, but they never actually ran with it. They'd done away with the model, and the Calibra was dead by 1997. They needed a new car to replace it, and they didn't want to make a Mark II Calibra, so what better to do than take their brand new Astra, send it off to Bertone in Italy, and have them build a nice Italian-inspired coupe. Right, so we're on some better roads now. We can kind of get this car to stretch its legs a little. It actually handles really, really nicely, and as soon as you get in that power band, it really does pick up. So, things I like about how this car drives is it is just so easy to downshift. So we come to a stop here, just heel toeing through the gears. It's a wonderful car to drive, especially on a back road. The gearing is really, really short, and you know that really lends itself to the back roads. I'd say fuel-wise, it gets the best economy around 50 mile an hour because the gears are just so short. But as soon as you get it onto a road like this, you can really just give it some. It hasn't got too much power, so you can have enough fun without getting yourself in heaps of trouble. So yeah, as I was saying, this car downshifts really, really nicely. Like, you can just roll through the gears, and it's just effortless. It's so easy. I'd say that's probably my favourite thing about driving this on the limit. Is it flows so nicely. Handling wise, it picks up really nice, and as I was saying, with that extra weight over the rear end, it just really adds to it. You know, when you're pushing the car through a corner, you can really feel where the grip is on the rear end. And it's kind of one of those things I don't think many people would really notice unless they had driven both the hatchback and the coupe. I'm sure the hatch handles, well, the hatch, I know full well the hatch handles brilliantly as is, because my little 1.4 with its spongy suspension actually handled quite well for what it was. Now the suspension, I believe, was done by Lotus on these, so it is a bit stiffer. You know, the spring rates are different. It's just a bit more firm. I don't think it's that firm. I think it's certainly firmer than your everyday Astra. So things I don't like about this car. Now, the first one is this bloody window. Now, this does seem to be an issue that is unique to this car on its own. It goes down no problem. As soon as we go to put it up, one touch window, back down again. And well, she's made it today. 9 times out of 10 it won't go up. If anyone in the comments knows what the issue might be, you know, let me know. That would be really, really helpful. I'm going to include some shots of how the window is sitting, because it does seem to lean in towards the car a bit, almost as if it's out of its runner slightly. Maybe another one for a later video, having the door apart and finding out what the issue is. Other things I don't like about this car, you know, I've already said I love the fact that the gearing is great for back roads, but the gearing is absolutely atrocious for motorway driving. You know, if you're at 70 miles an hour, you're easily sitting at 3,500, approaching 4,000 revs, and it does wear on you after a few miles. Aside from that, I would say I'm pretty happy with it overall. You know, the build quality is, you know, very much of its time. You know, we've got some soft touch material on the center console which is sort of worn off. Maybe another little job for a later video, who knows. There's plenty of content to be made with this car. So a year into ownership, I'm actually really happy with this car. It's been reliable, it's fun to drive, and it handles excellently. However, being a young man in his 20s, I do wish it had more power. So we'll get on to that. Right, so in the effort of extracting more power from this car, what most people would do is they would just take a 2-litre turbo engine from a turbo coupe or GSI and just throw it in more power. But I don't want to do that. I get a bit of naturally aspirated power from the existing engine using these parts. So first of all, we've got a intake manifold from Vauxhall, and we should see easily around 30 horsepower gains from this, at least according to their website. So we're going to be installing this sometime in the next couple of weeks. And we've also got an eBay special exhaust from John Ashley's with absolutely atrocious welds, but an exhaust is an exhaust. So we'll be chucking this on in the next episode. Yeah, so that concludes my review of the Astra Bertone, and I'll see you next week when we start installing parts. Thanks again, and goodbye.